everyone. We are here, Rukayyat and myself, and today we are going to talk about the journey of entrepreneurship and giving it a bit of time for anyone joining us to say, hey, where are you dialing in from? Rukayyat, where are you?
I'm in London, actually.
You're in London. Usually you're
Yeah.
in Germany, right?
No, I live in Germany, but I'm in London at the moment. So I'm dialing
Exactly,
in from London.
from London. And I'm dialing in from Norway, from Stavanger, and it's incredible how dark it is suddenly now because we've moved the hour. Oh. All right. Well, again, I cannot see until we are giving it another minute. Just 1 second. I'm going to check 1 second here. Let's see. Yes, we are live on LinkedIn. So we just checking because it's always the best thing. And I can see we have a few people out there. Hello, David. Lovely to see you. Okay, so let's turn down this music so we can actually get going. We have set aside about 45 minutes and it's going to be exciting. So I'm really curious before we dive into the nitty-gritty of our businesses. But Rukayyat, what is your mission?
What is my mission?
Yeah.
Well, I guess my mission is, I think oftentimes when we talk about mission, for me, it's all about the impact that I have on people and the legacy that I would like to leave behind.
Mm.
And oftentimes when we talk about legacy, we think of maybe legacy on buildings or something. But for myself, is the individuals or a group that I'm impacting to really take control of their finances. Because oftentimes a lot of people are not financially independent.
Mm.
And my mission is to leave them better and financially independent and build sustainable and generational wealth.
Mm.
So I always link my mission to what the impact is going to be on the person and what legacy I'm trying to leave behind.
Mm.
What
I
about
love that.
yourself? I'd like to.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll share as well. So my mission is actually to help draw out deep missions with the clients that I'm working on. Because behind these missions, I've come to discover that the solution for some of the greatest challenges we see in the world actually dwell. And for me, it's also about legacy work because the work that I've done with my son, who passed 18 months ago, was really proving to the world that there are no mission impossible. So when you are connected to something that you truly believe in, for me, it was being told something cannot be done. For me, it's like, you just don't tell Rita that something cannot be done because I'm going to prove you wrong. And that proved that the mission that I went on not only made my son live 20 more years than was kind of expected due to his illness, but I have been able to help people around the world that I would never think that I would be able to help. So for me, it's really important to have a mission. So when I work with my clients, I work with their businesses, it's like we always anchor it in what is a must for you, like no matter what, no matter what you need to, what stages you need to speak on, no matter who you need to argue with, no matter what you need to do, you just own that mission. So for me, that is super important. But hey, yeah, so I want to hear a bit more about PaceUP Invest.
Mhm.
Can you
Maybe
share?
introduction first
Yes.
for those that don't know.
Yes.
So, well, for those that don't know, myself, so I'm Rukayyat Kolawole. I'm the founder of PaceUP Invest. So we are in Germany, France, and in Nigeria. So what we do is we're a wealth tech company, really empowering women and underrepresented groups financially to help them to build wealth. Like I said, which ties in with the mission, basically to help to build generational and also sustainable wealth. And with this, I come with lots of experience when it comes to the finance industry. So specifically investment banking, capital markets, investment management. And going back to what PaceUp does, so really what we do is to ensure the financial independence of our clients, of our customers. And we do have both a B2C arm, so direct to our customers, and also B2B to really, really help individuals to build a good financial well-being, because ultimately it's all about having this mindset, and also when it comes to being just financially well, financially healthy. I often say that even though people say that health is wealth, which is great, but also wealth is health. Because if you
Mm.
don't have some form of assets, right, some form of wealth building mindset, then you're not going to be financially resilient. You always be at the mercy of other people. And what we are building at PaceUp Invest is basically to help our customers really, really start to think about their financial well-being when it
Mm.
comes to the overall holistic of their finances.
Mm. I
Mm.
love that. And how many years have you been doing it?
So it's 3 years now. We started out in 2020 during the pandemic, basically.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I started out during the pandemic. It was we started working on it as part of our executive MBA in Mannheim Business School in Germany and ISEC Business School in Paris. We worked on it
Mm.
for 1 year, and we successfully defended the thesis April 2020, just when the pandemic was starting. And when the pandemic started, it was more like that was kind of the aha moments, because a lot of women lost their jobs, a lot
Mm.
of underrepresented groups lost their jobs as well. And those that were in partners, like they had partnership, it had a lot of stress
Mm.
on the only sole income earning as well. And this
Mm.
impacted their mental well-being, right? Oftentimes people don't think that financial well-being it's important. It's often the root cause of a lot of mental well-being, so mental disability or emotional well-being. It really, really impacted them. And
Mm.
I thought this is something that it's needed. And
Mm.
how can I provide services, and how can I, again, going down to that mission, how can I ensure that people start to think otherwise when it comes to their finances and really build financial resilience? So in September 2020, that was when we registered and we became a financial services company.
Mm.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Wow. It's so inspiring.
Yes, but what
Mm.
about yours? What about yours?
Yeah.
Just get to know how you got started.
Yeah. So first of all, yeah. So I'm based in Norway, and the company name is Shestainability. So as you can hear from the name, it is very linked to sustainability. It's about how do we build sustainable solutions. And I believe that in order to find sustainable solutions to the world's problems, we need to have a sustainable mindset. We need to come from the inside. And sustainability came as I, in the beginning, was working quite a lot on the balance between the feminine energy and the masculine energy. Um, so that is where the name just was created, and now it's become a word that is, do you live sustainably, like it's a well-being way of life. um, when it comes to sustainability, so what we do is we work with clients all over the world. So I was just on a call with a client from Hong Kong, and then we have South Africa, and we have the US and Australia, and around Europe. And the interesting thing that I get to do is to work with the women, very often women come because they feel a bit of a restlessness. If either they are leaders in an organization or they are entrepreneurs, there is something more. They want something more. Very often they feel that there are problems standing in their way. Also, financial stuff. It can be the mindset, financial mindset is holding them back. So what I get to do is to work through that and help them see things from very different angles, and really, again, draw out their mission so we can see if you didn't stand in your own way, if you didn't allow the critiques overwhelm you, but actually you took charge, what would you be doing then? Where would you show up in this world? Where would we hear your voice? Which stages would you be on? So that is what I get to do. So I work inside organizations. I work with the female CEOs, but I also work with entrepreneurs. But I think the common theme is that after I work with them for some time, every single one can really clearly say what they are here to solve, what big problems they're here to solve in this world. And a lot is related to climate change and energy transition, for sure. I left my corporate job back in 2017. I had then 20 years in the upstream world. Again, I was traveling the world. And then I said, it's time for me to step out and up, not step down, but out and up. So I started my coaching practice. And from there, it's been up and down in the sense of where I am will often be reflected in my business. Of course, that is how it is. So, but it's been a fascinating journey. Yeah, I have to say,
Amazing.
yeah, I love it. I really love it. But I'm curious, going back to you, like, what is it that inspired you? I know you went back 2020, things happen, but what is that? What is that key thing that inspired you? And the reason why I'm asking is I want the listeners to think inside themselves of maybe there is something brewing there that might indicate that they have maybe a side hustle that they could do or even become entrepreneurs.
So for myself, I mean, it's quite maternal, basically, when it comes to entrepreneurship, from my mom's side. So I remember when I was growing up, because I'm Nigerian by birth, but I'm British nationalized. And my grandmother, she was a gold trader. She would go to Ghana, buy gold, and come back to Nigeria and sell them. And every Friday, she would then gather other women around the community, talk about their week. They would donate some money. And then from this, they would then give this handful of money to some women that needed it, either to further their trade or to send their kids to school or whatever it was. And I really, really understood, that's why I understood the power of communities. And also when it comes to money, how money can be used to add and create value. And this was why I actually went to investment banking back in London. But going back again, why was this so powerful to me? My culture is Yoruba culture in Nigeria, and it's from the southwest parts of Nigeria and also southeast parts of Republic of Benin. And it's such a powerful culture because it's studied in some universities in the United States because of the female empowerment that is ingrained in it. For example, like the females, they control the money, they control the economics, they control the politics, they control the household, even the religious affairs as well. And this actually was quite interesting to me. And I always wondered, like, when I moved to the UK, it was a cultural shock for me, basically, because looking at finance, going to work in London then, people controlling the money were just men. And I thought, I grew up with women controlling money, right? And obviously, I was there for like 16 years, and during that period, most of my clients were men, most of my colleagues were men, and oftentimes I saw that women were just not. The financial literacy wasn't there, the financial education wasn't there. They were not investing as much as men. And when I moved to Germany, it's even kind of worse because it's more conservative as well. And this was what really like inspired me to say, okay, this is the right time. And I guess with the pandemic as well, seeing the impact on a lot of people that, oh my God, this is a big problem
Mm.
when it comes to financial literacy, understanding your budget, saving, investing, pension planning, all this goes into wealth building where you can then build your wealth and you don't have to stay in a toxic relationship. You don't have to stay in a toxic work environment. I
Mm.
mean, I always go back to this story back in London when I was trying to get my mortgage. So I went to the financial advisor and he looked at me and he said, "Oh, you're too high risk for me because number one, you're female. Number two, you're black." I was like, "Oh, are you even allowed to say that?" Well,
Yeah.
then there was no
Wow.
diversity, equity, and inclusion thing then. So,
Wow.
and the power that I had was to take my money out of that bank and go to another bank that was ready to serve me. So I always go back to this
Mm.
that women and underrepresented communities, they need their money so that they don't have to take the abuses that often comes with some structural things that are
Yeah.
already in place. So
Yeah.
I guess like going back to my entrepreneurial journey, it's always been maternal. And
Mm.
also it was just the circumstances as well that I found myself and I decided something has to change. And again, it's all about leaving that legacy behind of impacting people in the right way when it comes to their finances.
Yeah. And I hear that this is where I sense it becomes a must.
Mm,
Like you've experienced things and now it's a must. But saying that, I mean, when you then decided to
mm,
start your own company,
mhm,
what about the feelings and emotions and what did you go through when you woke up one morning and had decided that, okay, well, I'm doing this on my own or together, of course, with your group. But
mm.
what did you wake up with?
I thought, oh dear, am I doing this in Germany? Number one, the language. Um, Number two, the complexities of things. And number three, my daughter was barely 3. So we're still very little. So this was 2020. She was born in 2017.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a lot of mixed feelings, but I thought, right, it's now or never,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And also the fact that it's something that is needed and
Mm.
it's something that is impactful, is sustainable.
Mm.
Again, because you were talking about yourself when it comes to sustainability,
Mm.
on our end, we say sustainability as well.
Mm.
Like we adhere to 5 out of the 17 SDGs. So
Yeah.
no poverty, gender equality, quality education, and reducing inequalities and building partnerships. So it's all
Mm.
about thinking of, okay, how can I build a sustainable model that is actually needed in the
Mm.
sense that the S part of the ESG, because you mentioned that most of your clients look at climate and environment. We look a lot at the social, how is really impacting the people, because at the end of the day,
Mm.
it's the people behind everything. They
Mhm.
have to be financially well, they have to be healthy, they have to have a good kind of understanding and a good emotional well-being to then
Mm.
think about, oh my God, I need to think about the environment now.
Yeah.
So when you were, I was kind of listening to you when you're talking about like the female that you coach and whatnot. So these are people that have already passed that stage. So now they want to think about climate. But oftentimes, what we see is those that are not high net worth individuals,
Mm.
they are not at that stage yet. What they want to do is to look at the S and really help others to move up the ladder. So you have
Yeah.
the different sectors of women as well, looking at different types of things when it comes to the sustainability.
Mm.
Mm,
Mm. Yeah. No, it's interesting again when, hearing your story, you just have a child, and again, you're willing to go all in because you see that this is the best for the future, and also for you giving back.
Mm.
Like it's like this feeling of a responsibility, but also this drive to go ahead and do it. And of course, like again, waking up, what have I done? Right?
Oh dear.
Yeah, yeah.
And what about yourself? Like when was that aha moment for you?
Mm. Yeah, it's really interesting. My story might be different from yours because, like, so my dad was an entrepreneur, and I thought I will never become an entrepreneur. I don't know. I had this thing about the corporates, and I come from Stavanger, where the oil and gas industry was like, oh, the flashy, beautiful, whatever. And I remember one of my big dreams was to wear a badge. So I do have a badge now for my office, but I thought that was one of those big things. But what I really came to realize was one of my core values, two parts of that is freedom, but it's definitely freedom of expression. And what happened with me was that I had been in my organization for about, I don't know, 15, 16 years by then. And the reason why I stayed in the organization for so long was because it was freedom. I mean, I was working in the press. That's really important, right? And the way we were playing in that field was we were almost entrepreneurs, and we had the entrepreneurial mindset. That's why we were so incredibly successful in the organization, and we built rapidly fast globally. And what happened was that the recession came in 2014, and now the energy industry was, of course, going downhill. And suddenly my organization decided to get one of the big four to come in and analyze and shift and change. And suddenly I came to realize that my voice wasn't that appreciated. I felt that suddenly I didn't express myself in the way that I used to do. I felt that suddenly I had to conform, that I was, okay, these are the rules, these are the new rules. And I was like, I am absolutely not having it. So I did a lot of crazy things, literally the 3 years before I left. But I did it, and I proved my point that on human needs, if you focus on looking after your people more than budgets, you will generate a high level of revenue. So that was very important to me. So I took the team through the past 3 years, and then I said, there is something bigger than this. And one of the things that I had seen in my experience in the energy industry that was so shocking to me all the time, where are the women? That's what I was thinking. Where are all the women? And at the same time, because of my son, I had realized that when you are driven to do something bigger than yourself, you don't hold anything back. You speak up. So in hospital settings, in research settings, I spoke up. I said, why don't we do this for Benjamin or for other children? Why don't we try this? Why don't I held nothing back, which gave me results. And I was starting to think, wow, if I was fighting for myself, would I have been that bold? No, I wouldn't. And I was starting to think, what about all the women out there? First, we barely see them. Secondly, those we do see, maybe they have bigger ideas. Maybe there's something more. And I was thinking, what if they carry the secret to solving some of these big challenges we have, in particularly around climate, in particularly in energy transition, and bring dignity back to people. So that's where I came from. So it wasn't this desire of really doing my own thing in itself. It was like spur of the moment, and I did it. I was also the sole provider in the household, and I had a child with a very rare genetic disorder. So when I'm thinking back, that I actually left a very good paycheck to planning to have zero income for 2 years. Wow, bold. But again, I was driven, and that is why I would love to hear from those of you listening in. If you were to forget about maybe what's holding you back, what kind of entrepreneurship would you love to do? If you could choose anything possible, I would love to hear in the chat, maybe if you want to share that. So, and the thing for me, when I think about the emotions that I went through, I remember really well. So I left in November. I knew that it was really important for me to have an office in a corporate building. I could not work from home. This is in 17. And I also knew that I had to make sure that I was traveling immediately. So I remember going to Abu Dhabi, to Ajipec, an event that I've been participating in for years and years, but now under my name, right?
Mm.
And then in January, I had this huge, not remorse. Yeah, I would say remorse, this kind of, oh my, what have I done?
Mm.
But that was the only time, and I never looked back.
Mm.
So I think it's normal
Mm.
to just know that there will come a moment where you suddenly say, oh wow, what have I done? But that doesn't mean that you have done something you shouldn't do. It just means that, wow, your system is fully functioning and looking after you, and be ready for that. Who you have around you to help you and support you if you suddenly have a not the buyer's remorse, but a starting your own company remorse and leaving your corporate safe job remorse. Who is there to help you?
Mm.
Yeah. Let me just look at the comments here. Thank you. So David's in Ghana. We have Catherine Starks coming in here. We have Inge Luft, amazing and inspiring. Rukayyat, amazing and inspiring journeys, ladies. My vision is to enable others to transform into the best versions of themselves. Thanks, Inge, for sharing that. Yeah, please share more, because this is very inspiring, and also invite you all to ask questions. Anything you want to ask Rukayyat or myself, just populate the questions here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the things I'm also curious about is really challenges.
Mm.
What challenges did you have, and what did you learn from them? What has been some of your biggest challenges?
Oh God, so many to count. Oh, I would say maybe I'll give two. So one of it was trusting the wrong investor at the beginning, which was really yeah, it was kind of a big emotional roller coaster for me when I first started, because this particular investor came on, and I pitched to the investor, and then just down the line, like 2 months later, founded a competing company. So I was really, really sad about it. And normally I do my due diligence, right? I mean, working in investment banking and whatnot is like due diligence. So I really, really hit myself hard. I took it too hard on myself, like, why did you do your due diligence properly? But oftentimes you don't know, right? You don't know. And I spoke to quite a lot of other people as well, like, this was what happened, and some were like, oh, call it out, and others were like, no, don't, because you're still new over there, you're still finding your foot in a new country and whatnot. But I had to let go and forgive. Basically, I think it's very important to forgive when people do you wrong, so that you can move on and just focus and just continue to execute, which was what I did. So I would say overcoming that was basically just forgiving and moving on and just focusing on my mission again and the legacy that I wanted to leave behind. And I guess the other challenge was just something that I could not, it wasn't in my control, I would say, because at the beginning, when I was still talking about the starting the company and talking to lots of women to kind of understand the landscape and building my network in London, in Germany, because all my network has been mainly from London and US and other countries, but not really, really Germany.
Yeah.
And I got mixed feelings, what mixed responses, and obviously you take the advice that works best for you, you move on. And I guess the one that really stuck out to me was when I was trying to, because you have to get a license, right? So I had
Mm.
to get my financial license. And I realized that I wasn't just getting anywhere. Like, what is going on? And luckily, I had met this amazing lady on LinkedIn initially. So I contacted. I was like, "Oh my god, why can't I get my license?" She was like, "Oh, you need to talk to this amazing lawyer." So
Mm.
I contacted the lawyer, and then she took over that role. And basically, they could not believe that someone like myself, like a Black woman, could reach a high position in finance in London, basically before coming over. And they were like, how are they not sure that I wasn't just making cups of tea back
Oh
in
my
my
word.
former role? And so it took me 1 year to get the license, and normally that should take 6 weeks. So it was a lot of
Shocking.
time gone, right? But then looking back, I was thinking, because up until recently, I was the only Black female fintech founder, or even the only Black founder in Germany in fintech. Up until recently, there's another lady that is building something similar as well. And I just realized perhaps other people have tried, but maybe they did not have that network. Because if I hadn't reached out to this lady to tell her of my frustration, I would have just thought, okay, maybe it's not possible then. And if she hadn't put me through to the lawyer, and if I hadn't had the resources to pay the
Mm.
lawyer to kind of get the license, then that might have been like quite detrimental to most people that don't have the network or don't have the resources.
Mm.
So these are the things that it's kind of like a bit of a setback, but taught me a valuable lesson. And what I do now is when because I
Mm.
do a lot of keynote speeches, I talk on panels as well. It's all about encouraging more women, and especially women of color as well, and people of color, to kind of say it's possible. Perhaps you just need to find the right network. And if you don't find the right network, just find the right way to kind of make sure it works in that instant. Because if you don't know, you don't know. And if you don't have the right network, you don't get it. So people come back and say, oh my God, this is amazing. This is what I'm looking for. And I've actually referred this lady, the lawyer, to like so many people that have thought that they could not get anything done in Germany just because of whatever the system has been
Mm.
like for potentially like Black people or even people of color or whatever it is. So I guess it's
Wow.
taking those challenges and turning them around and just making sure it doesn't happen to someone else, and they don't that timeline hasn't gone like it did for mine. So yeah, that was
Yeah. And
my
it's so
story.
interesting. It's so interesting. The things that is popping up for me as you're
Mm,
talking is
mm,
why it happened
yeah.
for you.
Mm,
Because, yeah, you can say it happened to you, but it happened for you for
mm,
a bigger reason. Because
mm,
it happened for you because you are resourceful and
mm,
you are taking action. And
mm,
because you didn't let this slip,
mm,
you are the one that was a match to take this assignment and solve it and now be on stages and say, I know what you're going through, and
mm,
this is how I can advise you to do XYZ. So it's
mhm,
like you were the match, like you were up for that challenge, you didn't
mm,
give up, and you used the network, and you have been building your network. You are
mm,
not you're not worried or concerned
mm,
uh, um, to alleviate the network and use it, right?
mm, mm. But it was emotionally
Yeah.
challenging.
Oh,
It was
goodness
like, oh
me.
my God, it was a lot. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's one has to sometimes go through those things and
Yeah.
like to help other people along the way as well,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And it turns back to be fortunate for others,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For
Mm,
sure. Yeah. I mean, if I'm thinking about it's interesting. My biggest challenges. So I'm going to share again another side of how challenges and what they can look like. I think
mm,
what I realized, okay, If somebody is leaving their job
Mm.
because they think everything is going to be so much easier because you don't have a boss to report to, you might forget something very important. And that is you're dragging your CEO around with you in your head. And that is what I came to realize. I always thought that, I had certain elements in my job that I found frustrating. I felt sometimes micromanaged. I felt, all these kind of things. And I remember one of the big challenges I actually had was to stop my inner critic from messing things up for me. And one of my biggest elements from the inner critic was perfectionism. And as back then, as a solopreneur, you cannot be a perfectionist because that will prevent you. You will procrastinate, and now opportunities just going to fly over you, and you're not moving an inch. So one of my biggest challenges was to have a good look at the things that I was working on. That was my work. Nobody was telling me to do it. I was working on it. And still, I had so much resistance of doing it. It had to be perfect. It had to be this. It had to be that. And I had to kind of create a case with myself to break down my own limiting beliefs, the belief system that it has to be perfect and perfect it and all these things, and actually trust the process, actually surrender that whatever I'm doing, I'm in the right place, in the right moment, and this is what I'm going to go for. I need my sleep, I need my rest, and I'm going to show up. I'm not going to over prepare. And that is it. I needed to go back and really face my younger self who was constantly showing up. Rita, that's dangerous. Don't say that. Don't do that. My younger self became my biggest challenge. So that is one of them. The second one was definitely when I lost my son 18 months ago. And I am the face of the organization. I am the one that is doing the work. So there's a lot going on the background, but I am the one. How to create enough space for me to grieve and to go in there. Who's going to do the business? And really trust again that process that the best thing you can do right now, Rita, is to go in the motions and grieve and be open about it. I shared it. I was very open also on LinkedIn. I shared in social media because I knew that that was a natural way that I could share my challenges without people thinking, and can I be a client right now? So what happened was that it was built up a waiting list as a result of that. So when I started to open again, now I could say, okay, now it's time. Another big challenge was also when I realized that it was time for me to say no to a certain type of clients because my mission is big and I am there to work with other women with big missions. And there are so many other great coaches and advisors out there that I can send other to that needs career advices and all these things. And to say no is really hard when you know you can help. But that was also a big challenge. So I'm just looking at, there is quite a lot of comments coming in here. Let me just have a look. So Inga is asking, how do both of you remain motivated and mission driven? How do you handle situation that felt like failures? So yeah, why don't you answer that one?
So I guess for me, how I stay motivated is it goes back to that mission, right? And the impacts and the legacy that I would love to leave behind. And I always think about my daughter as well, because she's a girl, basically, and how she sees me as well during this tough period. And I also say it begins with a mindset, right? And also a mindset of resilience. And it also goes back to my culture again, because like again, my culture is super resilient, and I guess most people don't know, but it's actually a religion in Brazil. And during the slave trade, a lot of the slaves took on the culture to actually stay resilient and not to be too
Mm,
um, not to give away too much of their power, even though the physical power was taken away. But the mental aspect, most of the time, they try to still keep some of the strength that they had. And it's all about just preserving that and always trying to strive for excellence, not perfectionism,
mm,
but excellence.
mm,
And I think it also requires me to be open, right, to new ideas, and to also challenge stereotypes and prejudices. All
mm.
this make me motivated. And also to never stop asking, what if, what if, right? And when it comes to the failure aspect, like how do you think about that? Like, um, I think sometimes like the fear of failing, I think we should not be like situations that I feel like failure. We just need to, what I do is I reflect, right? I go back and think of the scenario, what I did, how I did it, what could have been done better, and how can I move forward? What have I learned from it? Because most often times, um, failures actually, they push you forward sometimes, right? Or the feeling
Mm.
of it, you're then able to then recalibrate and think, okay, perhaps this is not the right way. So I'll give a quick one. So when we started out with just only women in Germany, and we have global clients now. So we have global clients when it comes to financial coaching and providing education. But when it comes to the investing aspect, then it's more of the countries where we have the license and whatnot. So we going back to that, it was more about women, and a lot of people came and said, okay, you're only catering to women, but then there are other intersectionalities of women,
Mm.
right? And we're able to quickly pivot that to say, okay, not just only women, but also underrepresented groups. Because
Yeah,
oftentimes when you talk about women
yeah,
in Germany, it's just the diversity. It doesn't look at race, it doesn't look at class, it doesn't look at religion and other aspects of it. And also the fact that we decided, okay, oftentimes a lot of employees need the services that we are providing
mm,
because of the fact that the financial stress impacts them at work. So
yeah,
we then decided to include businesses as well. So I won't say it's from failures, but it's also from the fact that we listen to our customers and decide, okay, this is how we need to pivot, right? And going back, I always feel like, oh my God, I'm moving away from the core mission, but it's not. It's all about including the people that have been underserved,
yeah,
basically, when it comes to investing and finance and financial literacy. And
mm,
again, it goes back to that mission driven, the impact, looking at where I've come from, where I'm going, what I would like my loved ones, and also especially my daughter, where I
mm,
would love her to be. So all this come into place. And I think at the end of it, it's all about just striving for excellence and
mm,
having a mindset of resilience to just keep going no matter how hard it is. But
mm,
trust me, it has been really hard and it is hard,
mm.
but just have to keep moving and try to stay motivated with the right support network as well. Very,
Yeah,
very important. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And for me, I would say that how do I stay motivated and mission driven? First of all, I have really identified what it means to be mission driven. I can, if I feel that I'm missing a bit of motivation, usually if I say, oh, I'm missing a bit of motivation, I know that I've started to focus inwards instead of on the mission, on the bigger picture.
Mhm.
So I always check in with myself and say, hey, what's going on? And maybe there's something that, oh, maybe it's not good enough what I'm doing, or maybe it's not grand enough, or maybe okay, Rita, just hold your horses there. Stop. This is not about you.
Mm.
What is it you feel when you turn your focus again on the mission? What do you feel then? What do I feel? That then is like, wow, I'm driven, I'm engaged. And very often, the only thing it takes is one conversation with some of the people that I'm working with that is on their mission. And I'm like, wow, I'm all back. it is important in any aspect of life to understand what drives you. So even if you say, I'm on a mission to find a new job, right? Understand, what is it that makes you think I want to have a new job? What is it that has been triggering you? Like I shared, for me, the one of my biggest triggers is if somebody tells me I can't do something, that is impossible. So I use that to remind myself, like, okay, so I want people to tell me it's impossible. The worst thing for me is like, if it's like, yeah, that sounds nice. Oh, then I'm like, oh, this maybe it's not that good anyway. But if I can't do it, like, so on a regular basis, I'm mapping myself out. I do not rely on the outside world to keep me motivated. I am fully responsible to be in charge of myself. So that's basically how I do it. When it comes to how to deal with failures or situations that felt like failures, I guess that the first thing I do is check in with myself. When I made the decision or when I did something, did I honestly believe that it was the right decision to be made at the time? And usually, yes. Like I've done so many investments that today I'm thinking, and why did I do that? I mean, that was completely no point in until I say, wow, through these investments, you have learned to do certain types of investigations. Through this, you have also learned that investigating maybe in certain programs or help, sometimes it's just a way of you think you're not good enough yourself. So you think you can always just buy the services from somebody else and now it's going to be ready made. No, it doesn't work like that. So for me, failure is a must for me because it will always open a new door. So I like to fail fast. I cut ties very fast. I don't continue investing money just, oh, I've invested so much so far, so I need to continue. No, cut fast. So I just want to look here as well. So Oslem, hi Oslem. She's saying, Rukayyat, you're opening the path for others to follow for sure. Powerful. Catherine Starks, Rookie, what a role model you are. These are messages for you, obviously. Um, Rita, so well said. As an entrepreneur, you cannot be a perfectionist. Yeah, it's just we are in the beginning, we get to do a lot of things. However, what I want to say, through these failures and learning, I have said one thing. I am committed to operating from my zone of genius and live in my zone of genius. That means that I am not interested nor willing to spend my time on things that drains my energy. So my biggest investments from my in my business always goes to hire people that operates in their zone of genius. So they do an excellent job for me, 10 times better than I would ever dream of doing it. So I can feel at peace and do what I'm doing today. That is the way I avoid perfectionism. But because perfectionism for me often happens when I'm not 100% certain of what I'm actually going to do right now. So that's how it is for me. I'm actually mindful of the time here. We are already 50 minutes in. But I want to address maybe from my end, I'm curious to hear about what does support look like for you? Like networking and like how important has it been for you with your networks? I think you did mention a bit about it, but I want to understand it even more. Networking and collaboration. How important has that been for your success?
I mean, I've always been networking since 2006 when I first started in the city, like in London. And it's very, very important because often people say that your network is your net worth, right?
Mm,
And we're only as how do I say it, effective as the people that we surround ourselves with.
mm,
And it's super super important to me. And I don't shy, I don't shy away from contacting people that I believe that we could add value to one another. And when it comes to networking, it's very important to be intentional and to be genuinely interested in the people,
mm,
not just a take mentality,
mm,
but what can I give? What value can I give to this person to actually make this person's life better and easier? And
mm,
I see it as developing a social currency. It's a social currency, right? Because
mm,
then you build trust, right? And also the fact that if anything, it's similar to sponsoring as well in that sense, like sponsorship, right?
mm,
So you build the trust, they know who you are, they know that okay, perhaps if they need something, they can call on you, and also vice versa because of this relationship that has been cultivated via networking. Oftentimes
mm,
when people talk about networking, they get like, oh God, I don't like networking, because
mm,
I
mm,
think the term has been a bit bastardized in the sense that networking is just okay, go, I talk to someone, okay, next I go to the next person, I go to no, you have to be intentional and deliberate to really try to understand the person, because at the end of we are humans. If we only have this mentality of thinking, oh, what can I get out of this person, is not sustainable. It's not going to be a sustainable relationship, because the other person will know very quickly that this is the kind of person you are. You just want to
yeah,
take without actually giving back. Now,
yeah,
when it comes to collaboration, you mentioned collaboration. It's
mm,
super, super important
mm,
to collaborate, because
mm,
that is when things get quicker, it moves quicker as well. For
mm,
example, PaceUP Invest, we've collaborated with different organizations like LinkedIn that we both belong to, and other organizations of female organization, and even like underrepresented groups organizations as well, to be impactful in
mm,
order to help them when it comes to their finances, so they know where to go to. And it's also like how do I say it, it's a network effect as well. So it's very important to collaborate. And I often don't see a lot of women collaborating with one another
mm,
compared to when I see men. And I think we need to do more as women. Oftentimes we see ourselves as competitors, but we shouldn't. I call it
mm.
competition, right? Cooperate, and you can also compete at the same time. But when we do things together, like, it's such a powerful thing that comes out of it when we're genuinely collaborating together, when we're genuinely fighting towards a common cause, a common goal. So
Yeah,
I always say that networking and collaboration is super important. We cannot do everything by ourselves. We need the collaboration of other people to make things move forward and quicker, and
yeah.
also on a sustainable level, meaning long term in this
Mm.
instance. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because when it comes to women and collaboration, the reason why women have been so successful through centuries, if we think about Norway where men went to sea, was the women who were left behind, or other places, they're going out there, they're staying away for a long time, or when men went to war, the reason why society was thriving was because women were collaborating.
Mm,
They were
mm,
looking out for each other, they were supporting each other. So I think this thing that has happened in this modern setup where we're suddenly competing.
yeah.
I actually find it interesting to even use oil and gas operators as an example there, because what we see is that oil and gas operators, they are competing, yet they do joint ventures together. So I always say that, well, if these guys can do it, like, and figure out a way, we should definitely do it. Now, from my end, network is extremely important. And one thing that I did learn very early on was that I didn't have a network around me that was meeting the needs that I had.
Mm,
And I remember thinking, what do I do? And I'm glad that I said to myself, if you need it, create it. go out and create a network. So when the opportunity came to build up lean and energy for Europe, I said, that's what I'm going to do. And then as a result of that, La Mever and I co-founded Lean and Equity and Sustainability. And again, we built this because we needed it. We wanted
Mm,
it. And
mm,
I had um, a young woman who is super focused on sustainability, and she is in a category of her own. And she said, I'm really missing a network where kind of people like myself with these big vision can get together, and I
mm,
can't find it. And I said the same to her. What if you go out and create it instead? And the second thing I want to speak to, a network is no worth really anything unless we're utilizing also the network. So like you
mhm,
say, we are providing in, but what's the point of having gazillion even on LinkedIn if we never reach out and ask for help? Can
mm,
you help? Can we do this together? How can I support you back? Is there ways? This is to leverage our network is so important. So building network for the sake of just building something, I don't believe in that. Then I believe in a small core group that speak the truth to each other and hold each other accountable. But the network is there to be leveraged to
mhm.
grow powerfully. So
Exactly.
that's what I want to say. Yeah.
Mm, definitely. Yeah.
Anything else you want to speak to before we wrap? And any questions out there, please go ahead and ask them now. If they're coming after, we will for sure get back to answer all of you. And for those of you watching the replay, we will also make sure to answer any questions that is popping up
Mm,
here. And of course, you can DM
mm,
Rukayyat directly for her and directly to me as well.
mm.
Um, yeah.
I think just to add, basically, because we're both entrepreneurs and we do manage teams, and it can be it can be really really challenging and lonely as well. When it
Yes.
comes to being a founder, when it comes to being a CEO and whatnot, and it does impact like the mind, body, and finances, definitely. And I often get to ask the question like, how do I, what routines have I developed and whatnot? And I've actually written quite a bit on LinkedIn as well when it comes to, in order to maintain a well-being, because there are days that I'm just like
Yeah.
waking up middle of the night thinking, oh my God, after have I done this right for this client?
Yeah.
This one or that one. And what I do is I exercise daily, right? After my daughter, because she's 6, so she's
Yeah.
now in grade 1. After she's gone to school, I go running, and I think support is super super crucial. It is non-negotiable. So my
Mm.
sister and I, non-negotiable. We try to have a call every time. Now I'm with her in London, but when I'm back at home in Germany, it's every night we have a
Mm.
call. We lean on each other, and it's also very important to surround myself with like-minded people to kind of understand the triumphs and the struggles of being a founder. And what I always say is a therapy is invaluable resource. Most people look at therapy as if, oh, I don't need it, I'm not going mad. No, it's very, very important, because it is not a sign of weakness, but rather a
Yeah.
testament to the commitment of our well-being, of my well-being,
Yeah.
basically. And in
Yeah.
fact, I encourage a lot of women leaders, not just only women, but other groups as well, to really explore therapy as a means to
Yeah.
support themselves on their own journey. And also, it's all about the mindfulness, meditation, and also just having this amazing tribe, right? And through it, it's all about remaining steadfast and driven by the mission, and also with the driven by the legacy as well, to try to be a whole person and be healthy and be wealthy and have a good mind and all that. So
Mm.
support, therapy, exercise, and meditation,
Mm.
it's super super important. I would say like people should those that don't do it already, well, that is what I do, and it kind of keep me sane in this crazy world.
Yeah.
I just wanted to speak on that briefly before we end it. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for raising that, and that's very similar to me as well, because absolutely it is as lonely is actually also is to be on the top of any organization, because
Mm,
that I can vouch for. That is what I'm working with the majority of my clients who are on
mm,
the top. It's lonely there, because who do you spar with? Who are you honest with? Who are you saying that I'm having a really rough day
mm,
inside the organization? Now you can't do that because you're supposed to be whatever strong.
mm,
So it's the same as entrepreneurs. We can be very lonely in our game,
mm,
and people can say, well, you've chosen this yourself. I mean, why don't you do something else?
mm,
For me, there are certain things that are extremely important. My morning ritual is sacred. And I
mm,
call it a ritual instead of a routine, because the minute I call it a routine, I have a check off list, and I only do it because of that. So I do meditation, I do journaling, I listen to things that is for me only. This is where I have my big moments. I always do that. Um, Another thing that is extremely important for me is to be able to spar with people who understand where I'm coming from. So
mhm,
again, if I'm thinking from a business perspective, some of the biggest financial investments I'm doing is actually to be a member of other mastermind groups where we're sparring on businesses, but also on the deep end of things, being super vulnerable. Um, because we need to have places where we can truly be ourselves.
mm,
And the other thing is, and I encourage everyone who's on this call to look up lean and energy, lean and equity and sustainability, and become a member, because it is a place where we support each other as well. Because sometimes we can be even lonely if you work inside an organization, but let's say you're one of few women or a minority.
mhm,
So that is extremely important. And the last thing I want to say, the most important thing that I put in my calendar is the time with myself. And actually, in
mm,
my calendar, we call it white spaces, but calendars don't like empty spaces. So I said time with the CEO. And time with the CEO are non negotiables.
mm,
This is where I do my Pilates, or I do my anything that is for me,
mm.
relaxation. But I know that if I just have it open, that place will fill up really fast.
Yeah.
And now I'm off running in the busyness, and I refrain from being busy.
Mm,
Just wanted to read some of the comments here as well before we drop off. So Inga, she says, I had to drop off, unfortunately. However, huge thanks for your inspiring discussion. Also, thank you for your vulnerability and showing there's strength in that as well.
mm.
And I don't know who says this. It says just a LinkedIn user. So apologies for that. I don't know. Can you see who it is?
No, I don't see the name, just
No.
LinkedIn user.
Yeah. So basically, it said, well said, Rita, regarding working together as women. Unfortunately, those of us in very male-oriented fields do not always have that opportunity. But I agree, go and create that network if you cannot find. Rukayyat's comment on being a founder, CEO can be a very lonely journey hits home. Lean In and other groups are an important avenue to speak with like-minded ladies. Excellent discussion. Oh,
Yeah.
actually, now I see it here. It's Elizabeth. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Elizabeth Rogo. Really, really nice. This is fantastic. Hi, Elizabeth. So I couldn't see you on the chat here, but I can see it on my phone because I see it there as well. Thank you,
Super.
Elizabeth. And you know so much about being a founder, a CEO, and running businesses, and that can be lonely there. Beautiful. Well,
Beautiful. Amazing.
I'm glad we did this.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. It was good.
So maybe we'll come up another time with another topic and we'll talk about that. And again, any questions anyone have out there, please put them in the chat. We'll get back to you.
Yeah.
And any final words?
It's been great. I mean, I guess it's just for those that maybe they are thinking of being entrepreneurs. Just go for it, test it, solve real life problems, and yeah, just I always say that the sky is just the beginning. The sky is not the limit.
Yeah,
There will be challenges along the way, but yeah, we can do it, and we need more female entrepreneurs. Definitely.
we do. We do. And I want to just say, I echo that. And I want to say that where you might think there is something holding you back from the outside, that can be, oh, what about the money I have in my job, or other type of responsibility. Very often these things comes from your own voices inside, and they might prevent you from looking into the opportunity you have. So yes, if you have constraints, my invitation is still explore the opportunity as if nothing stood in the way. There was no financial constraints, nothing like that. What would you do? Play in that field, because it's not always about, oh, leaving your job and then entering in and embarking on a journey as an entrepreneur, but it is to prepare ourselves and understand that, can I survive out of something that I'm doing myself? Because we think that, like, sometimes I say people tend to look at corporate as God. They are the corporate is the only way to create and have an income. Well, unfortunately, we see in the up and down of the world that you have a job today and tomorrow suddenly they let you go. So I say use the opportunity you have to find what is something that you might want to create on the side of your day job, just to know, and see where it takes you. That's what I want to say. Okay, well, then I am going to say thank you very much, and catch up later on.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye for now.
Bye. 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 Bye.
Bye.